welcome to the second episode of No Age Limit, our vodcast series where we talk about real stories by real women and uncover why it's important to talk about breast health no matter how young you are. Today, we have a very special guest with us. She is a young breast cancer warrior who was diagnosed at the age of 29. She was also a COVID frontliner who has tended to many patients during the pandemic. And we are very, very happy to have her on board today and have her take some time to share with us about her experience with breast cancer. Welcome to the show, Elle.
Hello, I'm Elle.
Hi.
I'm 29 this year, turning 30 this year. I graduated school in 2019 and I've been working as a doctor in Singapore since then.
Right. So you were also a doctor during the pandemic?
Yeah. During the pandemic, I was at the end of the first year of my working. So during that time, COVID struck and I was in my general surgery posting. And there were some manpower reallocation to the departments which need manpower the most. So I volunteered to go to the intensive care unit, ICU. And from there, then I worked with COVID patients.
That is a really bold choice, isn't it? Like the fact that, like you said, like you were still very fresh, you were still very young, and then I don't think a lot of young people would have just volunteered to do something as challenging as that. I think that's really, really impressive.
Well, there were quite a few of my colleagues from different departments who also volunteered to go to the different departments which required manpower. And I was very impressed with the teamwork because during that time it was quite uncertain. Everyone was quite fearful. But everyone worked together, the doctors, nurses, allied health, and this like sense of camaraderie really shaped me today and taught me the importance of teamwork in healthcare.
That's wonderful. That's really, really wonderful. I think during the pandemic, we really didn't know how long it was going to last. We didn't know the extent of, like the severity of the pandemic, right? And the fact that as a young person, you were so willing to offer yourself to do something as challenging as that, I think that's really, really respectable. Would you say that your experience, like you said, that your experience working with the team at the ICU, that really shaped how you are as a person now, right? So could you like expand a little bit more? Like, what do you mean by that?
Actually, during that period, I learned how important teamwork was and how important we have to listen to each other, regardless if you are the doctor or the nurse or like the respiratory therapist or the physiotherapist. Everyone give their own meaningful comments and we should all listen to each other. And also during that time, we supported each other through these uncertain times. And it was not only like doctors support doctors. We all supported each other throughout all different disciplines and professions.
Yeah, I think that's really important, right? Like during that time when people didn't really know what they were up against, like having that strength in numbers. Actually, that's something that we talk a lot about as well in BCF, about like really the strength in numbers, being stronger together and things like that. Because I think with causes like this, especially, like the more people talk about it, the larger the awareness can grow. And I think that's also one of the reasons why we really want to have this podcast and have you on board, is to share your experience so that more people outside of the breast cancer community can find out about the cause that we are serving right now. So I guess we can dive a little bit deeper about your experience with breast cancer.
Yeah, so I only just got diagnosed this year. When I first got diagnosed, I actually felt quite detached. As in, because when they delivered the diagnosis and all the test reports, the first thing I did was to look at like the patient identifiers, because that is what we do when we deliver reports to patient. We check the patient identifiers, and it took quite a while for it to sink in that actually the patient is me. And subsequently, when I was doing tests and surgery, I imagine myself as like the healthcare professional instead of really the patient. Like when I was doing scans, I imagine myself being the doctor outside the scan room, watching the patient through the glass panel. And when I was in surgery, I imagined myself when I was doing my anesthesia rotation, setting the IV plug and giving the gas to the patient. And during my surgery rotation, I was scrubbing in for the surgery. Like I felt quite externalized, and I guess maybe it is a way of coping. And I feel that maybe I haven't really fully accepted this, but I think I'm slowly getting there lah, compared to the initial part.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a journey, right? I think in the previous episode as well, when I was chatting with our guest, I think we did talk about the fact that healing comes in waves. So, you know, there will be days where you feel like you're better. There are days where it's extremely difficult. And I mean, to begin with, cancer, it's a really large word to have to internalize. So yeah, I think everybody's journey is completely different, and how you cope is also different. Do you think that the way you know, like what you mentioned, seeing yourself as the doctor and rationalizing, you know, like the different steps during that process, did that help you kind of understand what was going on?
I think it helped me such that it distracted me from the diagnosis. It distracted me from the pain that I was having, because I was imagining myself as the doctor who was administering the test and the surgery. But I think that sometimes if I imagine all this too much, I feel like I'm not really accepting the diagnosis. Yeah. And also, I think that with my medical knowledge, it is good because I can make better informed decisions, because I understand the medical terms better. But sometimes it is also scarier because I can understand each medical term and the scary meaning behind them. And also, as a doctor, some people expected me to know better, and so if I experience side effects, they feel that I should have handled the side effects better, because I should have known that this is just a side effect of the medication. But I think that eventually knowledge doesn't really protect me from being human.
Yeah, and I think that is a very important point, because even though you are already equipped with the knowledge, in terms of the processes, in terms of, you know, what treatment might mean, what are the options, it doesn't mean that you are not going to face the feelings that any other human being face when being confronted with a diagnosis as big as this, right? And that coupled with the fact that you are still really young, was there ever a moment that your age actually played a role in how you were feeling about the diagnosis?
Initially, I felt quite guilty after I got the diagnosis, because there were many people who kind of implied that it is my fault, such that like I didn't exercise enough, I didn't eat healthily, I didn't sleep enough, I was too stressed, hence I got cancer. But initially I was quite affected by all this, and I felt very guilty for having this diagnosis. But I think over time I've learned to accept that sometimes illnesses just happen and it's not all about blame. Yeah, and being young, I guess more people feel that it is because of my fault that I have this diagnosis, because usually it doesn't happen in so young patients. But I guess sometimes it just happens.
That is actually a very common misconception, isn't it? Because young women can get breast cancer too. And in fact, we have had medical opinions from oncologists, from radiation doctors, who have said that they are noticing a trend in which the younger women are getting diagnosed with more aggressive forms of breast cancer. So the fact that there are people who can say these kind of things, that, oh, it's pretty much your fault, because technically, if you're young, you shouldn't be, getting all of these kind of diseases. I think they are terribly misinformed. And I think that's where BCF also comes in, where you ramp up the kind of awareness that we do. And that is exactly why our campaign this year is targeted towards young women. I think one other thing that we notice is that for young women, a lot of the times they don't expect this to happen to them, because they're at a stage of life where, they are contemplating their career, or trying to start a family, having kids, getting married. But I don't think it's the fault of the young women to begin with, because like if it's not being like shown to you explicitly in the kind of mediums that you use, in the kind of news that you read, how would you be able to know that, hey, actually as a young woman I'm completely susceptible to this as well? Because like we said in our manifesto video this year, right, our BCAM launch video, we think that youth protects us, we think that health protects us, we think that success protects us, but honestly breast cancer doesn't care, right? And it will come up if you have a genetic history, it will come up even if you don't have a genetic history. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to be more privy about. And I'm really, really sorry that there were people who were blaming you. That is completely unfair. But it does sound to me that, you have taken at least some time to filter out the noise.
Actually, I used to think that way as well, that I'm young, so I'll be protected from diseases. But actually, when I became a doctor, and especially after I started work in the ICU, I've seen diseases hit younger and younger patients. And this does not only apply to cancer, it also applies to other major diseases like heart attack, stroke. Yeah, so I think that young people should be aware of their health as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's not just about following the latest fitness trends, right? At the end of the day, I think there are simple things for you to do that help you check in with yourself. Self-care is not just about following the latest trends, right? Self-care is also about, for instance, doing your breast self-examination. It's as simple as 5 minutes. And then, like, for instance, when you talk about stroke and heart attack, like I recently just saw a video on TikTok where it was a 37-year-old man who, out of the blue, he just got stroke. And a lot of times we are not prepared to handle this kind of things, and I think that's where awareness comes in.
I think that I always tell people around me to follow like the Singapore's screening guidelines. But there's usually some age cut off.
Yes.
So for those younger than the screening age, I guess you should take note of what your body is telling you and seek prompt medical attention if required. Also, I know a lot of people who have reached the screening age, but they are not
still
going
don't
for screening. But I've seen many people in the hospital, their conditions being picked up early because they went for screening. So I think it's important as well.
Yeah, because at least with breast cancer, early detection is really key, right? And that's why, we always say that early detection saves lives, because the earlier you catch it, the better your chances at survival are, the better the options for treatment. Like prior to this, I thought that, cancer means chemo. As a lay person, that means like immediately chemo. And it's only after, I'm getting exposed to like the different experiences by our breast cancer warriors is when I realized that, actually, if you detect it early, you might not even have to go for chemo. You might not even have to go for surgery to remove your breasts completely, and these are things that I think definitely we need more information to be made accessible to the people who are completely out of the breast cancer community.
I think for young females, other than breast cancer, cervical cancer.
Yeah, cervical cancer
and
is also
their like general cardiovascular health is also quite important.
Yeah.
There's all this in the screening guidelines
Yes.
also.
Yeah. So, like for example, right? Like, I think what we realized is also that, okay, for instance, with breast cancer, the recommended screening age is 40 years and above, right? But there are people as young as 18 years old, as young as 21 years old, getting diagnosed with breast cancer. So how are they then supposed to know that, hey, there are other steps for us to, like, take in order to take care of ourselves. Yeah, so that is something that definitely we at BCF are trying to really think about. But generally, what we push for is the breast self-examination when it comes to the younger crowd. And I think this is also where it's important for all these organizations to come together. It's the only way for us to really get the message out. And I think a lot of organizations out there are worried about the health of the younger generation.
I think a problem with like breast self-examinations that I've heard from patients last time is that firstly, they don't know what they are feeling for. Secondly, they don't really know how to do it and they feel awkward. Thirdly, they just sometimes they feel some vague thing, but they are just too busy or they just brush it off. Yeah.
So actually the idea with breast self-examination, and I think that's why we say you need to do your BSE every single month. And the only way for you to know what is abnormal is if you are consistently doing your BSE. So if month to month you feel, oh, this is the texture of my breast, okay, and then suddenly there's something else that's different, like a little lump, it's painless, oh, that's abnormal, I should go and get it checked. Yeah, that's why it's so important to do things on a regular basis, once every month. Unfortunately, screening is not available for people younger than 40, right? And I guess that's why a lot of effort needs to be pushed towards getting people to focus on BSE. Yeah. After you were diagnosed, were there any helpful resources that helped you to navigate through your journey from the point of diagnosis?
I think for mine would be quite different from others because I use my medical school notes. I never thought I would revisit them for myself. Yeah, but for generally, I think that like the Health Promotion Board website provides quite good information. For cancer, Singapore Cancer Society, Breast Cancer Foundation for breast cancer. Yeah. They provide quite easy to understand information for laymen. And even when I was in school studying for my exams, I do read all these websites because I want to learn how to convey all this information to easier for my patients to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really cool, right? Because I think the medical jargon versus the way you actually talk to your patients is probably really different, like how you understand things, right? What would you say was an integral part during that difficult period?
I felt comfort in having knowledge. So I rely a lot on my medical notes.
Like, you sound like a very logical and practical person.
Because I felt like knowledge gave me power and allowed me to make clear and informed decisions on what I should do next and the risks involved in all the steps I take.
In the sense of like the kind of psychosocial support that you needed, was there anything that you felt was could have been better if it was there, but at the time when you needed it, it wasn't?
So I didn't really have anyone to talk to regarding the real life experience. So I mean, I see from the notes like you'll get fatigue. But yeah, I feel fatigue, but I don't know how other people feel this fatigue. Yeah, so I think fellow support is quite important. Similar to during the COVID time. Yeah, fellow support.
Yeah. There are so many different kinds of breast cancer, right? So many different kinds of treatments, so many different kinds of like side effects. So just the fact that, like, I see some of the warriors coming together and they're complimenting each other's hair because it looks like salt and pepper and things like that. It's because they fundamentally understand what was the cause of that. I thought it was like a trendy hair dye type of situation, right? But then it turns out that, because it's a side effect of chemo and they understand, so they are giving compliments to each other. And this, in little actions like these, our warriors really do support each other. There is always someone else within, our members who can say, oh yeah, I've been through that as well. Oh yeah, your doctor said this. Yeah, my doctor said the same thing. And I think that's really, really important, the shared experience, to have a very good support system. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily always come from your family members or your caregivers, because they are there during your journey, but they don't know exactly what you are going through. And so yeah, I completely agree with you that having someone to go through that journey with and being able to talk about it so, casually, like, yeah, this is something that I'm going through. I can understand, you can understand. That definitely really helps lah. So at the time when, like, you were going through your treatment and having to juggle between being that young woman who's just in the beginning of your career, how did you, slowly find your balance again to give yourself that motivation to go through all the treatments?
So it's hard not to feel left out because all of my colleagues are progressing in their lives, their careers. I'm just stuck there trying to like recover and fight this cancer. But through this experience, I have learned to slow down and also just live in the present. I used to be quite caught up in the rat race. I led a very hectic life. Didn't really have time to like sleep much or eat or even go to the toilet. But now thinking about it, actually health matters the most, and without health, we have nothing. When I was in the ICU, those patients who were critically ill or on their deathbed, when I hear them talking to their family members, I don't hear them complaining about their academic achievements or their work achievements, but they are talking about how they didn't enjoy things that they love to do or spend time with their loved ones. And now having this diagnosis made me really understand what these people mean.
Yeah. I think as a young person, we do forget that health is wealth, right? Technically, when we were growing up, this was what we were working towards, right? So now we are here, we really need to progress, and then it just never ends, right? Because after that, for some people they want to get married, for some people they want to travel. So there's all these different milestones that you try to achieve, but you kind of forget that, hey, actually the core of everything is really your health.
Yeah, and also to be alert to what your body is telling you, and seek medical attention if required, instead of just brushing it off because you're too busy or you think that it will just go away by itself.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced awkward conversations when you bring up breast health to the people around you?
I mean, before I got breast cancer, I don't talk to anyone about my breast. But after I got it, some of the awkward conversations are those that I mentioned earlier, those that were blaming me, or those that were saying that I should know better and handle the side effects better. So I try to filter out all this, and I guess it takes time, but I guess I'm getting there lah.
I think, do you think it would have helped if topics on breast health was something that, we could talk about just like any other health topic, like your heart health, like people can easily say, don't eat so much red meat, like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it would help because I mean breast is also quite a sensitive area. So I guess in our traditional like society, we don't really talk much about breast also in the first place. Yeah, so it can be quite awkward when you raise about breast issues.
Yeah, because like to a lot of the older generation, they probably think it's like a private area. But it's also a body part, right? That is just as vulnerable. A lot of the times, like with breast cancer patients, especially the older ones, there's this reluctance to speak up about it, so they keep it to themselves, and then they wait for a longer period until things become too detrimental for them, and then like by that time when they realize, okay, this is really bad, maybe I should go and do something, the options are very, very limited already. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's always that breast health should be approached through that lens of, okay, it's just another health conversation. Yeah.
And in Breast Cancer Foundation, everyone is very open one.
Yeah.
They talk about the breast very openly.
But yeah, so like just the idea that, okay, 2 years ago, we had a campaign targeting men, like, hey, dear men, let's have a conversation about breasts. Let's talk about breasts. That helped. And then last year, we had the campaign about the Malay Muslim community because their screening rates were at the lowest compared to all the other racial counterparts. So we faced this, like, a very similar reaction from some people as well, where, hey, I don't really want to talk about this because, you know, like, breasts very sensitive, but it's getting there. I think the conversation is getting more open, and that's why at BCF we are like, breast. Like, you must use the word breast. If not, like, that's the little ways, right, that help you to normalize the conversation.
Actually, another awkward like conversation I had regarding this breast cancer thing is that some of my friends, they will send me those you know, those influencers who had cancer or had other like diseases and they survived and then they move on to achieve
Great
great
things.
milestones, great things. But and then they will say like, oh, all these people can, you also can. But sometimes I feel like all these stories are very inspiring. No doubt about that. But I feel that actually majority of the people are just like me. We are just like living day to day. And sometimes strength isn't about achieving extraordinary things or inspiring others. Sometimes it's just like hanging on every day through the hard times is also strength.
Yeah. I believe that there's always strength in vulnerability. I think that as you are going through all these, right, it's so difficult already. Like, there's so many things that you have to think about. Your body is being put through so much, your mind is being put through so much. Honestly, I don't think it's necessary for you to, you know, again indulge in that rat race all over again, right? Like, why am I made to, you know, feel like I need to compete against myself and that this version of me is weak? You're not weak. Like, a weak person wouldn't be able to put their mind through all of these. You know, that's a lot of hard work, that's a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifices that you have to make, the struggle that you have to go through. Nobody should be making you feel like, hey, you should be doing more at this time, you know, like, come on, man, like, I am doing enough. Like, let them be, you know. If all of these influencers, I mean, they are probably, they probably already went through that as well.
No doubt they are inspiring, but sometimes majority of people are not like that.
Exactly. And like we talked about previously, right, there's so many different kinds of coping mechanisms. There are people who, in order to feel alive, they need to like do things like again and again and again, right? Like they have to like prove to themselves. If it works for them, it works. But it doesn't apply to everybody who's going through this. You know, like, there are people who need to sit down and cry and really be in their feelings. And I think that's a part of healing as well, because if you don't acknowledge what you're going through and you don't acknowledge your feelings, you don't take time and be patient with yourself, it's going to be only a matter of time before you feel like, oh, I cannot do this anymore, right? So everybody's coping mechanism is different. And yeah, like, it's great that person A, B, C are using their platforms and you know, that helps them, but the same method, it's not a one size fits all. In your opinion, like, for you, what would have been a good example of support?
Actually, people around me, when they are by my side, I think it's as much support as they can give. It's just that they are not really going through the thing as you mentioned, so they don't really understand. So those in the Breast Cancer Foundation, they truly understand. So those would be more, provide stronger support.
I think that's where, you know, psychosocial support really does come into play. For people who have not gone through breast cancer, like, what do you think would be the best way for them to, you know, in your experience, to show their support?
I think just being there is enough, and also it depends on what the patient themselves need. People, they may be very inspired by those extraordinary influencers, but some will just feel stressed that they have to reach this So it really depends on individuals.
And I think that's where, you know, the line between looking at, you know, like this person as more than just a patient. Like they're not a different person just because they have a diagnosis, right? So your knowledge of who this person is, and you've known this person for so many years, right? Like your knowledge of this person should still apply when you're trying to show support, right? Because if you, all this while, this person has been, you know, the kind that gets encouraged by, you know, like really like that kind of coaching style, then yeah, maybe that is going to work, you know, like, hey, look at this person, look at that person, that might work. But if the person has always been like more on the softer side, the words of encouragement type of style, then you should also be able to, I guess, adapt to that. Like, just don't lose track on the fact that just because this person has, you know, any form of disease doesn't mean that they stop being who they are. If there is a message that you could share to all the young women out there, especially with your experience as a young woman yourself, right, what would it be?
Other than the messages that we have said before about increasing awareness, self-examination, I actually got one more very important one that I've been telling my friends after I got this diagnosis, and that is financial insurance planning. Because when like life throws you a curveball, it's too last minute to do anything. Yeah, and I've only just learned that lah. So I think that everyone should start young, and it will really help you and prepare you when the unexpected comes.
Yeah, I think that is a very, very important point, especially when we are looking at young women and them being at the start of their career, right? I think financial planning is also another thing that we put in the back burner. And treatments can be really, really costly.
I didn't really used to do much financial insurance planning kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I've only just really start learning about this
Now,
in Breast Cancer Foundation.
I think financial literacy is really one of our core topics, especially for this campaign. It's so relevant, especially to the young women's age group.
Yeah, and also a lot of young people, they don't see the importance of insurance yet because they feel that disease is still very far from them.
Yeah. This makes me just reflect on like my own financial planning. Yeah. Okay, so we've come to the end of the episode. This was a very, very insightful chat. Thank you so much for coming on board. All right, so if you're watching this and you're wondering how to do your breast self-examination at home, it's really super easy. Just head on to our website, bcf.org.sg, or log on to our YouTube channel to find an animated step-by-step guide on how to conduct your breast self-examination. Remember, early detection saves lives. Breast cancer doesn't care, but you must. So ladies, check your breasts. It's for the best. Thank you so much for tuning in to the second episode of No Age Limit. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.